everyone's going to own Bitcoin. You take custody of your own keys, understand what you own, and understand the power of the greatest asset which has ever existed. Living in a Bitcoin standard and valuing all of our assets in Bitcoin terms and extrapolating out various moon math and price points and saying, well, actually, the only Bitcoin I'm losing here is my own home. Like, it's worth X Bitcoin now, and as this extrapolates out, is going to be worth a smaller and smaller amount of Bitcoin as we go on. Now, you've got to live somewhere, and a family home is really important for the family dynamic, but that's the riskiest asset I own.
In today's episode, James Roden from the Bitcoin Advisor describes how he discovered Bitcoin and ultimately transitioned his family onto a Bitcoin standard. Being someone that helps set people up with collaborative custody multi-sig wallets, James emphasizes the importance of self-custody and why Bitcoin is the apex asset. In fact, you really don't want to be holding anything else as an investment because 1, everything in the traditional finance system has counterparty and dilution risk. 2, very few stocks outperform Bitcoin. And 3, real estate is expensive to repair, requires massive leverage, and incurs an annual tax to hold it. Some of you may identify with his comment about the emotional and financial toll of holding Bitcoin through the highs and the lows. James shares insights into his journey that many of us will face as we move closer to a Bitcoin-driven economy. This episode is more than just a personal story. It explores the mental resilience required in a world where money can either empower us or trap us. Make sure you stick around till the end, because James's experience might just change the way you think about your own future. But before we do that, I want to introduce our sponsors, Stampseed, the Orange Bill app, and Swan. Our partners are businesses and people that we respect, and our products that we at Bit Intelligence personally use. You're watching 21 Voices.
As you know, in 2017, it went straight up, and I felt like the smartest guy in the room there for a couple of months, and then it went straight down again. And then you dive in deeper and you learn more. So that's been my sort of introduction to Bitcoin, and the drops don't get any easier to take. I guess you learn about them more, but holding is not an easy thing to do, and it's not like I've had friends comment, you're lucky. You're lucky you got in so early. And in many instances, I am lucky, but there's only a small portion that's luck. The real, challenge around being a Bitcoiner and holding is having the education and having the and learning during those periods where you are tested. I've tried my hardest to orange pill as many people as possible. Let's face it, they're sick of struggling, and they're sick of having their purchasing power taken away from them during those downturns. And people are sort of like, okay, do you want your purchasing power to be eroding, or would you like to be in something which has a finite amount? And it really is that simple. I mean, the problem is there's so much apathy, and people just don't understand money. And so trying to go into these deep philosophical aspects of what's happening to the currency, how it's been debased, how that works, banks buy shitty bonds and banks are practically insolvent already, just that understanding of how they're printing money and debasing everybody's currency. The only way I think that I found of getting people to start to even dip the toe in discovering around money is to say, well, what's your purchasing power like at the moment? Why are house prices in Sydney just legging up? Why is it now unaffordable for the average family to rent a home, let alone buy one? What's taken place in society here that's really making life so difficult for you? As a lot of people sort of my age, around the sort of mid to late 40s, kids, it's just tough, like really tough. It's like the fiat system feels like you're swimming with somebody and somebody has a foot on your head. I think it's about explaining how, trying to get people to really reflect on what's happening that's making life so difficult from a currency perspective. Why is the beer at the pub, which you used to pay $5 for back when we were in our 20s, why are we paying $15 for a beer? Like it just seems a bit crazy. Your $2 coffee is now $6. There's a reason for that. And I think that's the sort of a approach which I've sort of taken recently in terms of trying to explain things. When I first got in around 2017, I think it was, something like 1,200 Bitcoin for the average family home, and now it'll probably be sitting around sort of sub 20. So when you start sort of explaining that, do you see a pattern there? How do you think this is going to look in another 4 to 5 years when it's fractions of a Bitcoin to buy an average family home? I think that sort of starts to make a bit of sense for people. It also comes back to that great old Bitcoin proof of work. You need to do your hours, and I think really 100's probably a bare minimum, but anyone who's done that time, as Michael Saylor says, it's very hard to go back. Living in a Bitcoin standard and valuing all of our assets as a family in Bitcoin terms and extrapolating out various moon math and price points and saying, well, actually, the only Bitcoin I'm losing here is my own home. Like, it's worth X Bitcoin now, and as this extrapolates out, is going to be worth a smaller and smaller amount of Bitcoin as we go on. Now, you've got to live somewhere, and a family home is really important for the family dynamic, but that's the riskiest asset I own. So I think housing then comes back down to its utility value as opposed to a store of value. I mean, it really shouldn't be a store of value. It's a horrible store of value. I mean, every property I've owned, the tenant calls up and wants a new dishwasher, or, there's a leak somewhere, or there's something gone wrong. We're just not building well because our money doesn't encourage us to invest more now to build for a longer term future.
Please bear with us for a quick message from our sponsors. These videos take a lot of time to make, and we've partnered with brands we trust like Stampseed and the Orange Pill app in order to get the funding we need to bring you these videos every week. Don't store your Bitcoin in cold storage without stamping your seed phrase on an indestructible titanium plate. Stampseed is fireproof, rust-proof, impact-proof, and easy to hide. It has no loose parts and will give you ultimate peace of mind that your Bitcoin is safe and sound for the long term. Click the link in the description below for 15% off your stamping kit. When I finally got Bitcoin, it hit me like a lightning bolt. It was the currency of the future, the only money that truly mattered. But there was a problem. I didn't know anyone else that thought like me. That is until I discovered the Orange Pill app. Suddenly, I was connected with a network of like-minded Bitcoin enthusiasts, right in my own city. The Orange Pill app is more than just a social network. It's a community of passionate individuals determined to change the world, one Satoshi at a time. This series is brought to you by Swan and created by Bit Intelligence. Remember to like this video and subscribe to both our channels for more videos like this every week. Thanks for watching.
We were going to go down to Bondi Beach today, and down there's a multi-million-dollar apartment complex, which was the latest and greatest thing. It had a couple of famous cricketers who bought penthouses in there. And this would have been 15 years ago, and it was the most glamorous building in the whole of Bondi, sitting next to, 4 or 5 Art Deco buildings, which were, built back in the 70s. Now, today, that building's getting completely redone. All of the facade, which was sort of a metal sparkling facade, is all being ripped off. They're spending millions of dollars redoing this 10-year-old building, yet the Art Deco buildings are sitting there like nothing's ever happened. That's a direct result of having crappy money, and not building for a longer term future. And you can't build off something which doesn't have a stable and sound monetary base. And Bitcoin's like it's the meter ruler for the rest of time for monetary policy. It's here, and you come to it when you come to it. But my advice to anyone I talk to is just get a little bit, learn about it, and get off zero, because the wrong number's definitely zero in terms of Bitcoin allocation. At $1 million and you 50% drawdown, $500,000 drawdown is tough, but in 4 years that number looks like 10 million and $5 million drawdown. That doesn't get easier. That gets significantly harder. So hodling is not a simple dynamic, and it's not something which is easy. But I guess part of the reason why the Bitcoin Advisor really solves such a multitude of different problems is, one, keeping you on the straight and narrow in terms of, listen, all you need to do is sit on your hands, but you need to secure this properly so that you're not going to lose it, you're not going to screw it up yourself. You've got backup, you've got people who are in a supportive community that can give you advice and guidance on how to really just stay the course. All you got to do to win is just do nothing. And it's not really always the easiest thing to do. And you look at the other assets you could own and the amount of money which you're going to spend on those assets and supporting those assets. I mean, think about the costs of owning property, having a property manager, real estate in and out costs of agent fees, stamp duty we have over here in Australia, which is just an amazing gravy train for the government. Property managers, you're paying 5 to 8% for a property manager. You look at the stock market and going with a brokerage firm, you've got a spread on anything that you buy, you've got, which, you can do yourself as well, and many people do, but you're still going to pay 1% to an advisor to put you in anything of more like 2%, 2 and 30. 2% in plus 30% of the returns over a cap level. All of these major financial institutions charge in that way. So why would you get an investment property doing 7% a year on average, as the property spruikers say, have all the risk of government, and they just change their minds the next person who comes in? Just can't imagine even bothering owning another property apart from the place that we live. Just not worth it. Why? Everything to me looks like a scam. That's the big thing. Like, the sooner you just get off zero and do it, the better. And particularly here in Australia, I mean, this self-managed super fund, I think it's 11, 12% of your salary goes into a managed fund. Most of those managed funds are returning sort of circa 7, maybe 8, 9%. I mean, you're not even keeping up with real inflation. So you're going backwards, and this is over a long period of time. And a lot of Australians don't even think of that money, particularly in their sort of 30s and 40s. They just don't think of that money as even theirs. It's like, oh, that's in there. I get a statement every couple of months, and it shows that I've made stuff all money, whereas the price of everything's increasing at a much higher rate. The pension funds are all going to buy Bitcoin regardless. But let me tell you, those super funds, you're not going to be getting the same value of holding your Bitcoin personally and paying a 1% fee to the Bitcoin advisor. You're going to be gouged for about 8% management fee and over performance fee on the rest of the garbage they buy, plus the premium returns they're going to get from Bitcoin. Everyone's going to own Bitcoin. It's just a matter of if you take custody of your own keys, understand what you own, and understand the power of the greatest asset which has ever existed. The multi-sig environment and the service which the Bitcoin advisor provides is really not about you. It's actually about your wife and your kids, and handing that responsibility down. If I think of what my Bitcoin could be worth in 5, 10, 15, well, hopefully, 30 plus years or more, I hope that I'm alive, and something happens to me. Shit, I know where his password was, and I know where his 12 seed words was. Well, what do I do next? It's a huge thing responsibility to put onto something should something happen. And I think just having that peace of mind, knowing that, my family's looked after, and knowing that we can help others, have that level of comfort.
James's journey into Bitcoin isn't just a story of numbers and price swing. It's a reflection of the emotional and philosophical shifts that come with adopting a new monetary paradigm. As we enter a world where the very idea of money is being redefined, stories like his highlight the mental fortitude and the adaptability required to thrive. For some, Bitcoin is simply an investment, but for others, it becomes a tool for self-discovery and empowerment, or in other words, a way to escape the fiat matrix and see behind the curtain of the dollar. Stay tuned and remember to subscribe for the latest recaps, insights, and films about all things Bitcoin. This is 21 Voices. If you want to watch another episode, try this one here.